This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. This is the Roger Stone Show on the Red Apple Audio Network. Coming up on our show, actor, singer, director, producer, and entertainer Robert Davi is going to join us. But right now, we are pleased to have with us Michael Knowles. He's the host of the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. I met him, I think, for the first time at a great Catholics for Catholics event at Mar-a-Lago, and I enjoy his show online. He's an outspoken proponent of freedom and our country, and it is our privilege to have him with us. He was on my net-based show, and we got so much great commentary that I wanted to invite him to join us here on the Red Apple Audio Network. Michael, welcome to the Roger Stone Show.
Oh, Roger, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, there's certainly a sea change out there. You know, prior to the election, particularly in the somewhat blue area that I live in, when I would go to the grocery store, the drugstore, the pet store to get food for my babies, I would wear a baseball cap or a hat and glasses, never wear a politically oriented T-shirt. Didn't particularly want people to yell at me that I was a Russian traitor. Of course, there's no evidence of that, or that I was somehow involved in undermining our democracy, coming from the people who dumped a sitting president who got 17 million votes and 71% of the vote in the Democratic nominating contest to nominate a woman that no one voted for. But the day after the election, I was wearing this great Trump for Peace T-shirt, which Anthony Constantino, the CEO of StickerMule.com, had given me as a gift. We had him on the show last weekend. He is, I think, going to run for the seat that Elise Stefanik is vacating in upstate New York. I don't know that he's made a final decision, but he seems to be moving towards it. Anyway, it's a great T-shirt. Mr. Stone called me and said, "Hey, can you stop by the grocery store and pick up a few things? I'll text you a list." And I said, "Sure." So I changed. I didn't change. On the way home, I went into the grocery store wearing this T-shirt, and it was not a subtle T-shirt, to say the least. And I was amazed how many people. I don't mean two or three. I mean 22, 25 people came up to me, disproportionately African American. I know that's not a scientific sample, but it's the truth. And telling me how happy they were with the election results, how they believed that our country had been saved, that how terrible the quality of life had spiraled downward during the current administration. And I see this in the cities, watching it online, people in New York and people in Philadelphia, people wherever the president travels now, lining both sides of the road. There's a new spirit in the country. There's a new optimism in the country. It's like a veil has been lifted. Do you feel the same way?
I absolutely do. I've had similar experiences when I'm out and about, and I don't think it's that the country changed November 6th to 7th or 5th to 6th. I think that people were given permission to express what they had been feeling for a long time on the right, and the leftists had been chastised, and they'd been chastised not just by losing the election, but by losing everything, by losing 1 in 5 black guys, by losing 46% of Hispanics, by losing 40% of women under the age of 30, according to the AP, by losing the popular vote, by losing the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt. I think it was a permission structure. And you started to see this begin during the campaign with Elon endorsing Trump, or with Dr. Phil endorsing Trump at MSG, or Joe Rogan endorsing Trump, figures who are not considered firmly on the right, in some cases figures who seemed a little bit more on the left, coming out and saying, hey, it's okay, don't worry, you can support Trump. And then after we got the numbers, the left could no longer say that to wear the MAGA hat or the Trump for Peace hat is racist or sexist or undermining democracy. That all fell apart. And so I think after the election, I was walking around, without exaggeration, I had a little bit more spring in my step. It felt like something had been lifted off of us, a kind of oppressive political structure had been lifted off of us. And so it's not that those people change their minds, those people who come up to you, as you mentioned, anecdotally, disproportionately black people. No, that's reflected in the polling numbers. I think now people just feel that we can say it, and our opponents have nothing to say to us in response.
So let me ask you this. We talked about this a little earlier in the show, but I want to get your view. How do you feel about the decision by Congressman Matt Gaetz to withdraw from consideration for the position of Attorney General? And what do you think about the new pick, Pam Bondi?
Pam Bondi seems like a good pick. In fact, I remember, Roger, I was on your other show I think, moments after Matt Gaetz was announced in the first place, and you said, I didn't quite see that one coming, and I don't think any of us saw that coming. If I'm trying to read a little bit of political strategy in here, I see how Gaetz was able to benefit from this in as much as the nomination gave him an opportunity to resign from Congress before that ethics committee report was going to come out and was going to bury him. Even if Congressman Gaetz could say, look, the DOJ looked into this, the DOJ did not find sufficient evidence to pursue charges, this is legally a done matter. You know as well as anybody that's not going to necessarily matter in the court of public opinion. So the congressional Democrats were ready to just dump this avalanche of accusations on Gaetz. It probably helps him to have an off-ramp from Congress, but he was always going to face a huge uphill battle. I think Polymarket put his odds of confirmation at 28% shortly after he was picked. So, he put out a good fight, distracted a little bit from some of Trump's other picks for a while. So in that way, I think the transition might have been able to benefit. But now we moved on to Pam Bondi, where even you have the legal analyst on CNN admitting that this woman is as qualified or more qualified than any AG we've had in the past 50 years. So in a way, Matt Gaetz might have been President Trump arguing past the sale so that now he puts up Pam Bondi and she's basically a shoo-in.
It is amazing to me now. We talked about this a little earlier. I'm very, very high on the nomination of Tulsi Gabbard. But this just in, Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, he says he's a conservative, basically saying that she's a foreign asset and that he has grave concerns about voting for her confirmation. This guy never seems to learn. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Yes, Senator Lankford stepped into it a little bit when he was carrying water earlier in the year for legislation that was manifestly not conservative. It's too bad. I want to extend the guy the benefit of the doubt and a little bit of grace here. Sometimes, people fall for the liberal propaganda and for the predations of leadership, which is often at odds with the conservative movement. But this seems really misguided. After we've now spent almost a decade watching the corrupt media and the DOJ accuse anyone who opposes them of being a Russian stooge, to see the same attack wielded against Tulsi Gabbard by some Republicans, that's really unfortunate. I can't quite understand what the attack is. I know that the Russian asset charge against Tulsi Gabbard began with Hillary Clinton, and it's ironic because in 2016, Hillary Clinton herself colluded with the Russians and the Democrat Party to come up with that bogus Steele dossier, which came from Russian intelligence in part. So that's a really rich charge. It's been totally disproven, time and time again. So I guess it's just because Tulsi doesn't have a bloodthirst to bomb every country in the Middle East that Tulsi Gabbard is representing a Republican shift away from Wilsonian expansionism, in a foreign policy that used to be identified primarily with the left, a return in many ways to a more conservative foreign policy. I think it's terribly misguided for Senate Republicans to try to get in the way of President Trump's nomination. Trump ran ahead of Senate Republicans. He ran ahead of House Republicans in this race. When there's a battle between President Trump's agenda and the average Republican agenda, the American people have made clear they support Trump's agenda. So it seems to me that the Senate needs to give the man his picks.
All right, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Michael Knowles of the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire, and we'll be right back. So whatever you do, don't touch that dial.
This is the Roger Stone Show.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back, folks. This is the place for politics, the Roger Stone Show, right here on the Red Apple Audio Network. And we're talking to Michael Knowles of the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. I was reading about this online when I asked you about it, Michael. You've been speaking out in support of Congresswoman Nancy Mace's bill, which would ban men from women's bathrooms in the U.S. Capitol. Talk to us about this situation and, well, why it matters to you.
Just seems like a total no-brainer. I had called attention to this a couple of weeks ago because it was striking to me that no one was talking about how for the first time ever we had a trans-identifying person elected to the U.S. Congress. I guess the reason we weren't talking about it is everyone was still celebrating or lamenting President Trump's landslide victory. But I said, this is a pretty big deal because, well, one, you've got a guy who thinks he's the opposite sex in your Congress. That's pretty crazy. Many people would say that is disqualifying because the guy obviously has defective judgment. Although if defective judgment and psychiatric conditions were disqualifying for Congress, we'd probably lose half of our legislature. So in any case, I said this was a big deal because this man is going to have to use the restroom at some point, and Republicans running the Congress are going to have to make a decision. Are they going to let this man use the women's bathroom, or are they going to tell him, no, you're not allowed to use the women's bathroom? It sounds like a trivial issue, but it's not a trivial issue, because if the Republican leadership in the House says he can use the women's bathroom over the objections of some women like Nancy Mace, for instance, then the Republican leadership will be implicitly embracing all of trans ideology. The Republican leadership will be giving up this issue, totally accepting that a man can become a woman and take over women's spaces, and women have nothing to say about it. So I knew that there were going to be a lot of Republicans who lack all sorts of anatomical features, but in this case spines, who didn't want to deal with it, who wanted to just ignore it or quietly let the man use the women's bathroom. But Republicans can't escape that issue. It's an issue that carries with it so many deeper connotations. The left knows this. This is why the left has spent so much time and so much money on this issue. They want to accuse Republicans of talking about the transgender issue. We didn't bring it up. We're not the ones who tried to push this ideology in bathrooms in North Carolina all the way into elementary school classrooms. It's the left that's the aggressor, and we're just reacting. And it turns out that most people agree with us. So my argument here in defense of Congresswoman Mace is, one, it's a matter of justice. Women should not be forced to give up their private spaces and their legitimate rights to disturbed men who have fantasies that are out of accord with reality. That's the first part. But the second part politically is that this issue is a big winner for Republicans. This transgender issue, the bathroom issue actually, is largely what flipped Virginia red for Glenn Youngkin. It's what gave Ron DeSantis a massive re-election victory in Florida. I think it inspired many voters in this election because even if you don't care about weird sex stuff and you don't think about bathrooms very much, I think this issue, the left's embrace of transgenderism, has shown ordinary voters that the left has lost the plot, okay? They have lost the common sense. They think a man can be a woman. We all know that isn't true. So as a matter of justice, women should keep their rights in their spaces. But also just as a matter of politics, Republicans would be crazy to give this issue up. This is a winner for Republicans. We should keep pressing ahead.
Very interestingly, just this morning I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a very, very prominent and very, very capable Democrat political consultant and strategist. Yes, I do have a few such friends. It used to be much more common than it is today, but this is a guy who's very good at what he does. And I've actually been up against him back in the days when I was a political consultant. I don't by and large do that anymore. And I beat him a couple of times. He beat me a couple of times, but a very, very smart guy. He told me that he thought the Trump campaign's ad about Kamala Harris supporting taxpayer financing for transgender surgery for inmates was one of the most brilliant, hard-hitting, and effective ads he'd ever seen. And that in states like Pennsylvania, where they really ran this ad very aggressively, he thought that it was an absolute game changer. This is coming from a Democrat who's not so woke that he'll tell you the truth. Michael, I'm very excited about the upcoming Thanksgiving. If for no other reason, I need a few days off desperately. How do you and your family celebrate Thanksgiving?
Well, I'll be visiting my family in New York, and love New York, but as you well know, Roger, it's much more of a liberal place, and my family is largely liberal. So you hear every year about the conservative uncle, how to talk to your conservative uncle at Thanksgiving. I am the uncle. That is me. I will be bringing cigars, celebratory for what's been going on this month. But usually we keep politics aside. It's not too big a deal. I'll try to keep the gloating to a minimum and just focus instead on the wine and the turkey and the pumpkin pie.
Well, my family and I are going to drive up to see friends in Jacksonville, Florida. It's kind of become a tradition. We're taking the dogs with us and get out in the country among the regular people where you can go to the grocery store without fear of anyone calling you a Russian spy. Michael Knowles of the Michael Knowles Show. Tell folks where they can see your daily show.
Well, you can go get my show at the Daily Wire or wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, all over the place. You can get it on terrestrial radio around the country. And you can find all of that at michaeljknowles.com, where you can get links to everything from my books to my Mayflower cigars and everything in the middle.
All right, there you have it. Michael Knowles. Michael, you have a permanent invitation here on the Roger Stone Show. Anytime you feel you have something important to say, you're welcome here. God bless you, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me, Roger. Great to be with you.
Comes from China.